And that's how the land influences the plants and animals that live in the desert. You know, we're at the very far northern tip of the Sonoran Desert. It goes all the way down into Mexico. As a matter of fact, who remembers how much rain falls in the desert in a year? Anyone else besides Angela? Oh, okay, Angela?
10 to 12 inches.
Right. Now, if you take a look to the north, you can see the mountains there, and that marks the beginning of the central Arizona highlands. That's a totally different environment, different vegetation there. And behind me is Black Mountain. And which direction would that be?
South.
Right as usual.
Well, somebody's been paying attention. Angie really soaks all this stuff up, doesn't she? Hey, Mom, come back to this world for a moment.
I'm learning how to reclaim the 4 directions of my inner territory. Place, time, me, we.
Meanwhile, your daughter's acing this field trip.
Yeah, that's my girl.
That's ridiculous. Anyone can answer that. Bet she can't. What's the bet? If I win, then we don't have to go to that stupid farmer's market later. Oh, you are so asking for it. Fine. Game on. Hey, Mom. I got a question for ya.
What's that?
Which way's north?
What kind of question is that?
The one I'm asking you. Tell me which way north is. Nuh-uh, that's cheating.
Oi there, Captain! We're out to whiskey. And me and the lads have been thinking that you don't really know where the treasure is buried after all. We've been thinking that it's time to take a little rest down in the deep blue. And that goes for your first matey, too.
If you know where it is, Captain, now would be a really fine time to say so. The sun is in the west.
There, a league to the north, on that island.
God, you did it, Captain! We're saved! But however did you know?
Oh, you just gotta know the territory.
Not bad, amiga, not bad.
Told ya. So we're still going to the farmer's market then?
We sure are. And it starts in, based on the sun's position, I'd say it starts in about a half an hour. Don't look so down. It'll give you a chance to sample some local produce. A sense of place helps you feel safe and grounded inside, you know?
Right. Well, I just hope they have pizza. I'm starving.
Don't worry, we'll feed you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm here with Peter and Phyllis Strupp, the creators, writer, director, producers of Better From Within. Just a wonderful film. We're blessed to have a part of our film festival this year. In speaking to them, we have such a lovely situation here, a husband and wife team making films together. So maybe we'll start from that aspect and then dive in to the actual nuts and bolts of the film. So yeah, so it began in New York, New York City.
It did. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Well, I will just say that our work together as filmmakers did not begin in New York City. That began more like a pandemic. Peter's been interested in film his whole life. I've been more of a writer, And when his second movie came out 3 years ago, I was in the middle of writing Better from Within, the book, and the nonfiction book. And I said to him, it really sucks how easy it is to get somebody to watch a movie and how hard it is to get somebody to read a book. It's very discouraging. So Peter had the idea that we would make a fictional narrative for the movie based on the nonfiction book. So just brainstorming together is how we ended up being filmmakers.
So we should point out that a number of years ago, Phyllis is now had a long career in finance, but now 15 years, is now a brain trainer. She writes, she lectures, she teaches on how to help folks, typically in the 40 to 60-year-old bracket, make the most of their brains as they age. A number of years ago, she wrote a book called Better with Age, The Ultimate Guide to Brain Training, which has done very well. And she was in the process, when we had this conversation, of writing the sequel, which is Better from Within. This is actually, the book is not out yet. This is a dummy book. So it was within that context that we hit on the idea of creating this fictional character of Grace, who would face various midlife challenges using the 7 steps that are outlined in Better from Within.
And when we first got this idea, I said, I just don't relate that well to coming up with fiction. I feel like I want to be authentic in what I tell people. And so then I liked the idea. We started talking and we said, okay, it will be a fictional character with a non-fictional life. Everything that happens to Grace, 95% of it has happened to me or someone I know. And so I like the idea that you can tuck the real life into fiction.
That's like, I was saying before, that's really something that's palpable in the film, because she does face all these obstacles. And I absolutely love, and this is from your book then, I guess, the doom scrolling, and how that could age you. I mean, yeah, like who doesn't do that? Like look back on all their past failures and it's like, some haunting memories and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to, because I felt like it would have been real helpful to me in midlife to have realized this is all perfectly natural and normal, and your brain is trying to let you know that there's some unresolved memory. And you got to rewrite, your brain will rewrite it, but you got to give it words to rewrite it. Like, this bad thing happened, but this good thing came from it. Or this person did something bad to me and they were idiots. It wasn't me, so you have to do that work. And so Better from Within is giving 7 tools that Grace uses to do that work at midlife, to realize, hey, the doom scrolling is an invitation to growth. It is not a trap. It's not a black hole that you're stuck in. It's an invitation to a very good, your brain is trying to set you up for another 50 to 60 years of a healthy life.
And we knew we were on the right track when, even as far back as the audition process, but then once they actually showed up on set, certainly this book and film are aimed at men and women, but it seems to have resonated mostly with women. And several of our actresses are in that 40 to 60 plus age bracket. And all of them said to us, this is me. Yes, I absolutely relate to these challenges. And yes, I've done these things. And I'm very glad to have a positive message. So our goal had always been to have a happy set, which we've had on our previous films. And certainly helping that was the fact that the subject matter resonated very much with members of the cast.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, again, it's just so well done. I absolutely love the grandmother character too. How you gave her some depth. It's not just like, a granny that you're used to seeing. Oh, okay, like she has a life of her own.
Oh yeah. Well, Maria is, we were very fortunate to get Maria. We have some background here in local theater. But most of the actors who were in this film are not folks that we knew through theater. Maria was new to us. She has done quite a bit of independent film. We loved working with all of our cast. They're all wonderful. They're all talented. Maria is very expressive. She has a wonderfully expressive face. And the fact is that although it is not obviously visible directly on screen, every one of the lead characters was given a detailed backstory. So they had an understanding, and we don't have time to go through it right now, but her character has quite an interesting backstory. And she was, she was aware of that. We had talked about it a little bit. So we hope we gave Maria the tools to create this interesting character, and I'm glad it resonated with you.
Yeah, no, very vibrant, very not expected, like I said, usually women of that age or grandmothers are painted as, they're sitting in the rocking chair waiting for everybody to come back home, if they even will, or, but so it's just great that you stepped out of that norm.
Yeah, and one thing that was important to me in that character was I have heard a lot of women say it, and I hate to say it, I think I have said it. Oh, I don't want to end up like my mother, and I thought, you know what, that's not a good attitude. I think it's a good thing to look at both the good and the things you don't want to repeat in your parent, rather than just say, oh, I don't want to end up like my mother. It's sort of, so Grace had to own that. Like, hey, my mother's helping me with my kids. You know what? She's a good person. So why have such a negative attitude just because you might want to make some shifts in your lifestyle that she didn't make?
Right. No, I love, like, obviously it's allowing people to really embrace their own self-awareness, I think, right? And then I also like that you went into these like little tangents of like fantasy, when she's like dressed up as the queen, the sovereign, and so yeah,
That was Peter's. When we first got this idea, he gave me a draft of the introduction, and it had this fantasy in it. I love that. It's not me. That's not how I would approach things, but he came up with this idea of having her inner life as fantasies that help her cope with her challenges, and I loved it. He was very good that way.
Well, and we also want to give credit to our producing partners at Amaroma Productions, Kelly and Daniel Mendoza and Sean Oliver, who among them are our director of photography, editor, line producer, who they are the ones who actually provided the crew, the equipment, and the expertise to make this film happen. And one of the first things they were very circumspect. They said, "Do you want notes on your screenplay or not?" But when we said, "Of course, sure," one of the things they said was, "We really think you should lean in to the daydreams." And so as a result, again, time doesn't allow us to summarize what was in the original script and what finally ended up on screen. We will just tell you that what ended up on screen was a little bit more exciting than we had imagined, complete with a lava flow in the one daydream on the other that takes place on another planet. That was not in the original script, I can tell you, and nor was the special effect in the budget. But they encouraged us to make the most of it, and we're glad they did.
Yeah, thanks to them, the daydream sequences just turned out much, much better than we had originally imagined.
And we also give full credit to Sammy Ledeen, Samantha, she goes by Sammy, who is our production designer and costume designer, who the costumes certainly make and the sets make those daydreams. So that throne room for the queen scene, that's all Sammy. That's all Sammy.
Wow. I love it. Seems like you had a great team involved. That's
We did.
wonderful.
No, it's been a pleasure for us. We do this really as an act of love because the film itself is not a commercial film. It will not be shown in theaters. We do not charge for it. If it helps to sell a couple of copies of the book, that would be lovely. But really, it was just an opportunity, as have been our previous films. It's an opportunity to co-create with some very creative people. And the fact that many of them, pretty much all of them, are younger than we are is also very nice because that actually allows us to live into the message of the book, which is that lifelong learning is the best way to have a brain that lasts as long as your body does through life.
Yeah, we felt very strongly about the message of the movie, with or without the book, that taking charge of your story means you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to look at your challenges and get help. She doesn't do this alone. She has help, and that's what midlife is all about, is finding the boundaries of what you're capable of doing by yourself and what you need help with. And people are concerned about the aging process and being in good shape mentally and physically. So taking charge of your story is how you do that. And that's the message of the movie. And we just hope that helps some people realize that what they might have thought was a negative is actually an opportunity for self-awareness,
That's wonderful.
which is really all we have to grow.
Yeah, no, that
Uh,
I just find it
Uh,
so encouraging that it reminds me of that. I think it's an African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yeah, that
mm,
really, yeah,
yeah,
that's a great way of looking at it. I never really thought of it that way, that maybe like your 20s is all about like finding your independence. Um,
mhm.
and as you grow, it's really more about finding your community, your tribe, building that relationship with your mom,
definitely,
building that relationship with your child. I had,
definitely.
thank you. See, you're just giving perspectives to everybody.
Well, it's the relationships that build our story, and I think in midlife we get a chance to see that. And it's also important to realize that our brains are set up to make the most of our communal life together. And so, children growing, and then young adults, and then midlife, and then older adults, we're all meant to work together. We all bring something different to a community or a team, and that's our brains are trying to help all of us live longer and better. And if we work with it rather than get in its way, I think that we'll do much better with our brains as when we're younger and older.
Wow, wow, this is such an important film. I am so grateful to you both for making it and to being a part of the festival.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you.
yeah, no, thank you. In talking about this community, because I just for my own curiosity, what's the filmmaking community like in Arizona, right? You both met in New York City, but you live in Arizona presently. I know you mentioned some theater, but I'd just like to give, because I'm sure other people are curious too, kind of a little window into what life as a filmmaker, author in Arizona is like.
Good question.
It's a very good question, Katerina. I don't know that we are the best qualified to answer that question because we are not full-time filmmakers. I got into this back in 2019, taking a college course and making a student film on an iPhone, which was well received at several festivals. We then made our second film, Cold Service, which was a very different kind of film than the current film. It was a quiet little thriller. And now this. So it's not as though we're making a film. We're always making a film. From what we know, we've been lucky to, as we say, be around people who are engaged in filmmaking on a regular basis and who have given us the benefit of their skills. From what we know, there's definitely a vibrant film community in Arizona, and particularly in the Phoenix area. We live in a town called Carefree, but we're in the part of the greater Phoenix area. From what we know, there are a lot of people out there making independent film. The problem is that Arizona does not support filmmakers with the same kind of financial incentives that other neighboring states do.
New Mexico.
New Mexico in particular. And whenever filmmakers get together at film festivals, that's one of the issues that invariably comes up, is that they wish there was more support. So to any public policy makers who are listening out there, we will say, we think you're leaving opportunity on the table there, because of course creating jobs is a desirable thing to do. We're fortunate in being able to produce our own films. We did investigate a new program for Arizona state funding, and I'm not going to be negative here, but I will just say that the process of applying was simply it wasn't geared to independent filmmakers. So the point is, to summarize, there's lots of people doing great work. There's lots of talented people here in the state of Arizona. They could just use a little bit more, and also a good film festival scene too, I should say, many film festivals. But they could, in our opinion, use a little bit more government support. And of course, I think that's true throughout the country. Government support for the arts is something we all have to fight for every day.
Katerina, I would add to that. It seems like maybe during the pandemic, maybe it started before that some of the big producers like Amazon and Netflix decided that Arizona was a good market for them to produce in, because you could set up a huge place and a production facility, so that it seemed like the tax benefits were more geared towards people like that, because it was very bureaucratic.
Right.
But what I did learn from our crew and cast is that our lead, Laura Oliver, has worked in both LA and New Mexico.
And Arizona,
and of course, Arizona. And also our casting director, Drew, very important link between the theater community and the film community in terms of actors. The actors, and we have a very good theater community in Arizona. It's quite remarkable, all the smaller theaters and community theaters, and they do very good work. And so the pool of actors in Arizona is quite remarkable. We found when we went to cast our film that a lot of the people that had community or some kind of theater background were really good actors.
Yeah.
And we really wanted good actors, because we've done some acting ourselves, and we just know that the actors are the main storytellers, and you can't get around that. So it's surprisingly vibrant given the lack of support from the infrastructure or the government here.
Wow. Oh, that's great. Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way, right? Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
And that's lovely that there's a great, thriving theater community. I've done theater too. I love the stage as well. Yeah, no. That's wonderful. I just again, I can't say enough good things about this film. And thank you. You had sent your links to your other films. If you have a little bit more time, I'd love to pick your brain about those as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I thank you. I love the way you described just now a quiet thriller. I thought Cold Service was really really good. Is there any plans to maybe extend that into a full film as well, a feature film as well?
Oh, it would be lovely to do so. And as a matter of fact, one of the questions that I got, because Cold Service was well received again at film festivals, and one of the questions I got so often was, what happens to her afterwards?
Yeah,
Where does she
yeah.
go from here? And I will tell you that I have on my computer 6 single-spaced pages of notes as to conclude Anna's story. And anyway, and all sorts of things happen to Anna. However, I must say, much as it would, lovely as it would be to either expand the existing film or to continue the story, we feel that we caught lightning in a bottle on that production. First of all, we were filming in the pandemic, which is
Wow.
amazing.
And no one got sick.
And no one got sick. No one got hurt. You know, it was all great. Thank God. But really, we feel like there's no way we could capture that magic again, and we shouldn't try. So while, you know, we do have a couple of ideas for films possibly in the future that may be a little more in the storytelling genre, rather than this film, which occupies a very special kind of a subject niche. I don't. I think we're all just going to have to live with Anna and Cold Service as they are.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was very well done. That's remarkable that it happened during COVID. You know,
Oh, yeah.
well done. I'm sure that, I mean, yeah. That must have been very harrowing.
Well, we took precautions, and again, we were blessed with a wonderful team. We were Dakota Coleman and Matt Pleasant, and Daniel Critchow, and their team provided wonderful production support. We had an excellent lead in Mary McGarrah, who actually had not done, whose background was mostly theater, who had not done a film in over 20 years.
Wow.
And who was very happy to be able to come back and do this film. So again, you know, just wonderful when people come together and do so safely in this case. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, is that kind of like your process? Do you like write a script and automatically go to a casting director, or do you always like keep an eye out for talent? Like, how do you find your actors?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
all, yeah.
Yes to all
Yeah.
of the above.
Again, bearing in mind that we don't do this, you know, we're not doing it constantly, but you know, that would be a summary. Certainly our work in theater exposes us to people, and it's always an idea to say, oh, you know, that person might be a possibility. Each of the films has been more and more complex.
Yes.
So Better From Within is certainly a more complex film than Cold Service. The Eulogist, as I said, was filmed basically in one day on an iPhone.
Wow.
So as they get more complicated, you need more people to be part of your community, your village, and we absolutely leaned on our casting director Drew for this film for suggestions. And as any director can tell you, an actor may be nervous in an audition, but the director and the producer are much more nervous because if we don't cast this role, we don't have a film.
How do you?
We did.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was just going to say we did have a number of people in Better From Within that were in small roles that we knew them, like the guy that played the husband, Christian Krugman. We know him from community theater.
Sure.
And we did have trouble casting the male lead, and Drew knew Kyle Sorrell and recommended him. So it was definitely word of mouth help, but our lead was new to all of us, and we were very happy to meet her.
Wow. Oh, lovely, lovely. You brought up an interesting point, and I just want to ask because I'm sure like everybody goes through this, right? The nervousness of being a producer or director on a film. So how do you cope? What was it, to use some terminology in the book, the self-talk that you were giving yourself, right, in the movie? What was the self-talk that you were giving yourselves to help deal with that? Because I think our audience could, find some benefit from that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I would say I was pretty new to this. For Better From Within, I did sit in on the auditions, and I did have a strong feeling as to whether someone seemed right or not. But sometimes that strong feeling was wrong, and sometimes you had these little doubts. And I guess, and our casting director said, don't settle for a key role. He said, if that person doesn't seem like the right person for Grace, we'll go out and cast, do another casting call. So I would say that it was a combination of listening to that intuition, but also allowing the little doubts about, somebody to surface and then talk about it.
Sure.
Because self-talk should end up with maybe getting out of yourself to talk to someone else. So I would say that we had a lot of back and forth, and we didn't always see it the same way.
Oh, sure. No, that's true. And, there were definitely, I won't say fights, but there were definitely discussions. On set, where I was more closely involved than Phyllis day to day on set as the director, my mantra is do less. Don't get it. You've hired good people. You've cast good people. Let them do their jobs. And again, that's been the best advice that I can follow. And, are you nervous the first day? Of course you are. You don't know how it's going to gel. You don't know if people are going to come together. But we made a conscious effort on all of our films, as I said, to have a happy set. And that goes from auditioning with respect all the way through to the premiere, where we did a proper premiere in a theater with, everybody got a little Oscar at the end, and, we made an event for them and their families. So treating your cast and crew with respect, aiming for that happy set. If you do that, yeah, the first day may be a little nervous, but then you settle in and let them do their things. And yeah, so it's not really a matter of being too nervous. You're always under the pressure of some schedule, that's for sure. Got to get this shot, got to stay on schedule. But in general, if you are letting the professionals do their work and just offering little mid-course corrections here and there, you're going to be fine.
I like the way that when we could talk, Peter and myself and our casting director, that to me was the best way to cope with nervousness. Because if I had doubts or concerns, I had people to talk to, and they knew better than I did. So the other thing I wanted to say is that Peter, he held a cold read with the casting crew. And we've heard from people that work on film that were in our cast and crew, that this was unusual. We had 2 full days of rehearsal. So a cold reading, 2 full days, so that when we all showed up for shooting, people had a lot of interaction and feedback from him already as to what he was looking for, and that apparently that's not as common with filmmaking as it is. Community theater, you spend a lot of time rehearsing. But apparently with film, a lot of people don't. So we made that a priority.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, and I totally understand that's more of a theater mindset. So yeah, no, but it obviously served everyone well. Yeah, that's wonderful.
The mantra is, every minute that you spend in pre-planning, which includes rehearsal, will save you 10 minutes on set. So it's worth doing.
Sword fight, king of the hill.